Hello book lovers, welcome to Dogtown Bookshop. This is your virtual tour. Here's our window. Lots of books on display, always changing. Here we are at 132 Main Street in Gloucester. Next door are our dear friends at the Good Linen Studio. Let's take a walk inside. We're closed today. Here we are. We always have a rack of free books and a box of free books. Normally outside we have our $1 carts filled with lots of amazing books, all for $1. Here we have some more books on display, and you'll find our section on fishing, all kinds of things on police and fire. This is our Agatha Christie section, which we're proud of and is always growing. Here in the front, you'll find some local maps they cover Gloucester and Rockport. And then here on one of our main walls is our art section. I'll back up to give you a good view. So it starts next to the window with photography and moves over into visual art like painting and sculpture. Books on time periods and styles, as well as particular artists. We also have a lot of how-to books, different techniques and things for at-home study. We also always have a $1 art book box. Great for getting your hands on some cheap art books, and also I think a lot of folks use them for collage. We have a ton of these. These are magazines for different auctions, and there's great images inside, both for learning cool things and also, again, for collage or different artwork. We move over into our architecture section. Lots of architecture books, interior design of all kinds. That continues over here, all kinds of decorative arts. And then we move into our section on glass and porcelain and furniture. Some beautiful books, not only on how to work with those techniques, but also, again, time periods and particular artists. The last shelf on this wall is rural life and gardening. We always have another $1 box right here, just some small gardening books if you need a quick and cheap guide on trees and shrubs, or what else do we have in here? Gardens and Flowers of Jordan Pond. Up top, we have way up there a bunch of yearbooks. So if you're ever on the hunt for an old yearbook, hunting down your grandparents, we have that. Then we move over into our first corner. We have our crafting section, and that also spans down here where we have jewelry and fashion. Then we have our cooking section, which is ever expanding. All kinds of stuff, beer and wine, vegetarian and vegan cooking, some of the great classics. We also have this, which folks love and is an amazing local book, The Fisherman Wife Cooks Book. All kinds of things, and then this is really fun. There's always fun things to dig in here. These are different cookbook and ephemera things, and let's see, hors d'oeuvres, and also manuals that come with different hot pots throughout the ages. 50 years progress. This is great. Intriguing new ways to serve ice cream. I wouldn't call that new, but definitely intriguing. We move past that, and I'm bringing you back to the front. So here's our entrance where we came in. And next to the bulletin board, we have a big beginning of our nautical and marine section. So books on shipwrecks, books on how to sail, books on fish, books on books on books about adventures, and here's our section on the Navy. We have books on lobstering, lighthouses, fishing, boat building, more ships, cruising, ships in the sea. And there's a few more cool maps local to the area. Across from the counter is the beginning of our local section, our Cape Ann section. This is the only place in the store where we feature new books. They're all written by local authors. Sometimes they're about local themes, sometimes not. And up top we have a variety of local ephemera we like to keep on display. This is one of my favorite titles, Local Guy. A couple of awesome needle points by one of our friends and staff members and community members, Amanda Saunders. Just a little cool thing to have in the store. This is one of our most frequented sections, the Cape Ann section, the New England section. You'll find things on Gloucester, Rockport, separated by town, by county. We have tons of Joseph Garland, we have Kitty Parsons, Vincent Ferrini, all the favorites. Books on genealogy of the area. Sheet music published right in Gloucester. Books on Boston, Salem, Manchester by the Sea, and the greater New England area. Hope I'm not moving too fast for you. Some great books about Salem and the witch trials. Down on the floor, these are well loved. We have a lot of crates of local ephemera, different maps, tourist brochures, art catalogs, and remnants of things that have happened here in this amazing town of Gloucester. There's actually even more. They go all the way around. These are our continually growing collections of sea glass. Lucas and I walk the dogs on the beach and collect sea glass. There's one. There's another one. Moving on, we have a special section for Thoreau and Alcott and Emerson and Hawthorne. We have some more leftover fashion books that wouldn't fit in the fashion section. So just past our New England section, we have our rest of the world, because there's New England and the rest of the world. And this section includes a lot of books on New York and New York history. The previous owner was a big collector of New York books, which we're happy about. Both Lucas and I have lived in New York. That's where I was born. And then we start moving beyond the United States and United States history into other continents and areas. So things on the UK, great Irish section. Those of you celebrating St. Patrick's Day this month, we have a lot of beautiful books about Ireland and Irish history and mythology. And then we move over in this bay. We start coming into the continent of Africa. And an amazing collection of books lives here. That's our second bay. And we continue down the hallway here at Dogtown Books, passing by an end cap of illustration books. So these are books that feature strong illustrations. This one I really love. There are illustrated books in lots of places around the store, but these just are some of our favorites. And we're moving here into our Asian Studies, War and Peace, Nature, Science, and Tech section. So that starts over here with Asian Studies. As with any good used bookstore, always exploding a bit onto the floor. After our Asian Studies section, we have a War and Peace section. Historical and current, although always timely. After War and Peace in U.S. history, and Asian Studies, we move into our nature section, which includes books about dogs. Of course, we're Dogtown books. Lots of things on birds. And that dips down into ecology, also spreading out onto the floor. And in the corner of this bay, geology, marine studies, and our science and tech section. Some really interesting and obscure books about, for example, semiconductors and science and civilization in China. It's always fascinating to read older science books, especially the text books, Principles of Industrial Organization, so we can see how things stay the same and also change. A little Darwin on display for you. The end cap over here is essays and stories, as well as some criticism. So here's where you'll find short stories and books that authors wrote about books that other authors wrote. This bay is poetry, drama, Greek and Roman, sports, music, and film. We pack it in. If you know me, you know this is one of my favorite sections. A whole bunch of poems. And as always, we like to provide some cheap and easy options, so we always have a $1 poetry box. Interesting journals. Let's see what's in there today. Deconstructing Harry. Poetry from February 2007. Winter 1961 Canyon Review. Some very cool things. This section tends to change often. We have a lot of folks that love to come buy poetry here, and I'm always trying to keep it stocked. Lots of collections and anthologies, as well as books by single poets. And that brings us over into our theater section. Books about producing and creating theater, as well as a lot of titles that are scripts and famous plays. Of course, a lot of Shakespeare and the other classics. I like this little pile in here of Yeats. Snuck over into drama. Eugene O'Neill, Tennessee Williams, Picasso at the Lapin Agile, wonderful play. Past theater, we go into Greek and Roman mythology. If you haven't read these classics like the Iliad and the Odyssey, now's your time. Followed by sports, with a section on sports biographies. Down here we have dance. Gets a little crowded. Another section over here for you art lovers. This is music. We have tons of sheet music. All kinds of crazy sheet music. Let's see. What's this? Sheet music. Blue Moon. If We Only Have Love. I Got It Bad. Over the Rainbow. Amazing. We have contemporary things. Who doesn't love that? And of course, lots of books on jazz. Any violin players out there? We can thank our local thrift store Second Glance for this little piano. We slide over into movies. Some critical dictionaries on cinema for you film scholars out there. And that keeps going down. One of our sections that we also love, books. So it's books about books, anthologies of poetry, 20th century of science fiction, history of American literature, and this one, which you may need, Handbook of Middle English. We'll keep going here. This is our handy typewriter we leave out for people to leave us love notes. Let's see what we got. Hello. Oh, somebody's not so happy. They hate their life. Poop. Hi, friends. Bye. Often it's some young children, so we don't always know what's going on with that, but it's pretty funny. And this is The Monkey King. We brought this in from home. It's not for sale, although many have tried to buy it. Wrapping around this end cap, we have a whole bunch of awesome stuff. We start moving towards our reference section. So books, and reference start to bleed together here. Every once in a while we sell some clothing. This is Latin from The Handmaid's Tale for anyone who might recognize that. Otherwise, go Google it, find the translation. This is our reference section. Reference, travel, archaeology, and anthropology. A bunch of really fun, small dictionaries. I used to collect these when I was a kid, so I love them. Synonyms, antonyms, and prepositions. Creole English. Serbo-Croat. All kinds of fun dictionaries. And then we move into what we like to call the world before the internet. Beautiful sets of dictionaries, thesaurus, all kinds of reference books and maps. And that walks over into our travel section, some travel memoirs, some books, some guidebooks that are very outdated but fascinating. Some of them are still accurate. Some of them tell a picture of an earlier time. This is our government section. We'll zoom right in on that one for you. Law books. Business. Fascinating books in here on leadership, as well as I've spent some time digging through really interesting books on economy and studies on particular businesses. This is a great book here, Theory and Practice of Advertising. Facts and Fetishes in Advertising. At the end of that, we make a dramatic turn into archaeology and anthropology, which sits atop one of our most busy and changing and frequented sections. It's the beginning of our First Peoples section. Also our African American and Black Studies section, folklore, and Judaica. I could just get lost in this section. So many interesting things. Beautiful stuff on First Nation, history. We always try our best to have books out in this section that are written by authors who lived in these cultures and have lived experience. There's, of course, lots of scholarly books as well, some of which are important for different reasons, but we like to make sure we are focusing on indigenous authors and scholars and writers of color. Again, exploding out into boxes on the floor. Let's see what we got here. Ritual and Gender in New Guinea. What's this? Field projects in anthropology. See, this is a student handbook. Complicated to study other cultures. And let's take one more look. Throw'em-way-leg. Tree kangaroos, possums, and penis gourds. I knew I picked a good book. This is an important one. Just leave you with that image here. This is a section on writing. Those of you working on your own work, your own original writing. Lots of books on how to do that and how to stay inspired. And down here, a small but important section on computer-related things. We try to not keep too much that is outdated down here. And we try not to take for granted that everyone knows how to use the computers and the internets. So we try to keep some interesting guides in here. And then a section that does not sell very well because podcasts exist. But this is our audiobook section. So if you still have a CD player, or even better yet, a cassette player, you can comment on it in and get some audiobooks for real cheap. This is our last bay in the retail store, which is an amazing collection, really. It's kind of a poem in itself. Foreign language, polar, Christianity, westerns, ghosts, circus, and mystery. Lots of cool polar exploration books, Arctic exploration books. And underneath polar exploration is our erotica section. It's pretty awesome. We'll give you a quick pan of that. Below erotica is our foreign language section. So we have books in all kinds of languages and dialects. Over here is our section on Christianity. So it's mostly Judeo-Christian in here. Bibles, all kinds of different takes. We can thank Second Glance for that guy right there. But lots of Bibles, different versions of the Bible, and some critical texts about Christianity. And then, because why not, we go right from Christianity into Westerns. Some great old Westerns. We had a little section on moonshine and prohibition, which is very cool. Alcohol in the State. Return to Thunder Road. Wild Horses I've Known. Below Westerns is our circus section. There's some magic books in here too. And then we move down into another section that's very well trafficked and constantly trying to keep this section stocked, but lots of ghost stories. We have on the back wall of our last bay our mystery and thriller section, which has finally been alphabetized. Yes, we have Stephen King. We try to keep as much Stephen King stocked as we can, but wow, do his books fly off the shelf. This is our biography and memoir section. And if you walk up the steps here into our kids section, we have a fun little area for kids books as well as young adult books, and some books on parenting and education, and a good old family of wild toys, throw pillows, stuffed animals, little ice cream sundae station. And again, because we love making sure everybody can get their hands on books, this whole crate is $1 books. So they're not in the best of shape. They're well loved, but they're all only $1. Censored the Goat. I mean, there's some wild and amazing stuff in here. Here's a little section on the Hardy Boys. From the kids section, you can get a look at our back aisle. We have automobiles, trains, horses, Some great old manuals from machine shops and automobile shops, pre-internet. And then we go into our psychology section. Any 12-step book that we have, for example, this one, they're always free. Our health section spreads out. We have a special section for women's studies. Our spirituality section is continually overflowing. There's always boxes on the floor. Let's see what we have here. Simple Chinese astrology, uncovering the spectrum of consciousness. I want to read that one. Electional astrology. So this is about working with the planets and deciding when to make, looking ahead to when to make big decisions or big changes in your life. Lots of stuff from all different cultures and paths. Existentialism, Freemasonry. This is where we tuck our books on occult and witchcraft and tarot. A little Kuan Yin here for you, pouring out the balm of compassion. This is our antiquarian section, all behind glass, so my apologies for the reflection you're likely getting. Many of these books are listed in our online store on eBay. You can find a link to that on our website or go to eBay and search for us. The printing press changed in the 1850s, so books that were made pre-1850 are more rare, more valuable, more delicate. And a lot of those are back here. But when you come visit us, these cases are always open, so you can take a look at some of our beautiful old, or shall I say in a more professional way, antiquarian books. Back to our front counter, we have our custom-made Dogtown Books business card holder. We have journals for sale and tote bags. Here's our display case where we keep things that we find particularly amazing or beautiful. First editions, rare editions, more nautical things. And up here we house some new arrivals, so things that are new to us and we like to keep up front so they can catch people's eye, especially our frequent visitors who come in a lot, like to see what might be new on the shelves. Our little section of mini books, which is real cute. Real tiny little old books. More nautical. This is a famous local book that we like to keep in stock, Walking Cape Ann, and published by Dogtown Books' previous owner, the First People of Cape Ann, which is a really beautiful retrospective on First Nation folks who were the first stewards of this land. We have a small LGBTQ curated section here. It's certainly not the only queer authors and queer topics we have in the store, but we like to keep that right up front. A little selection, and another one of my favorite genres, true crime. So again, it's not all we have on true crime, but it is a little section. And then down here are more children's books. A little bit of overflow. So that takes you right past our front counter and out the door. I'm standing here from the counter view, looking towards our children's section, past our antiquarian wall. These crates are filled with ephemera. So ephemera is just what it sounds like. They're small pieces of paper and brochures and maps, things that were printed in small quantities, and you can't find them too many places, and they're not really books. They're more like, let's see if we can find something cool to take a look at. This is the Hastings Pudding Club. This is from 1916. Check that out. They're all separated by section, and you could spend days in here. This center aisle is fiction. That's a beautiful handmade art piece we were sent to grace our store, and that identifies our fiction section. So I'll back up. You can see the fiction section runs as a center aisle through the store. Some amazing women authors right here. We'll take a pause. And while we're here, this is our staff pick section. So Lucas and I and our close-knit friends and community, we try to put some books out here that we think are important or books that we love that changed our life. And that sits at the end cap of our fiction section, which is alphabetized by author. And this is actually the end of the fiction section. So this is things like Tom Wolfe, Jules Verne. That's a beautiful version of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So that spans the whole length of the store. You keep some things on display. Little Ayn Rand for ya. This is a little sign we put out when we first opened the store. One of our favorite authors and thinkers here at Dogtown. And some of our oversized books find their way into little sections. Everywhere you look, there's something fascinating. At the end of our fiction section here, so this again is memoir and biography, we have a fun little rack, $2 Pulp Fiction. These titles are wild. I'll let you check those out. I mean, doesn't that make you curious? Wild. We have a whole bunch of those. Let's see. Pull one out for us. What do we get? There's a book called Diane. Bright prize in a violent drama of sin and greed in tropical Jamaica. Well, that's pretty crazy. A Lust for Life. Well, that's the end of our fiction section. And again, I'm going in reverse, but it wraps around here. So this is our I think we're in H. Our beautiful elephant bookends that we bought from a neighbor around the corner who was moving and had a sidewalk sale. Ooh, White Oleander. That's a great book if you haven't read it. And that just keeps on going. Right through fiction. We have a small, large print section. We like to have some good books around with larger print. We're always looking for those. And there you have it. Back toward the front of the store. I'm sure there's more to see. I didn't cover everything, but I hope this gives you a sense of what we have, what's available for you, and gives you some inspiration for particular books or types of books or genres or topics, parts of the world that you might want to read and think about. Have you read those? The movie was terrible, but the book is awesome. The many books. We hope to see you in person when we can, however we can. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed your virtual tour of Dogtown Books and that you enjoyed seeing everything. Visit our online store at eBay or order a stay-at-home book box, and we'll send you some treasures. Thanks, everyone.